This is the Two-Tone Uncensored Podcast. Hosts Matt McCrone, Ryan Moreland, and Glenn Lotzenheiser talk everything Tennessee Titans. This show is made for the fans that bleed two-tone blue.
This is Justin Hartwig, and you're listening to Two-Tone Uncensored.
Hello and welcome to Two-Tone Uncensored. I'm your host, Ryan Moreland. With me tonight, everyone's favorite naysayer, Matt McCrone. How you doing, Matt?
You know, I really hate when you start the show with hello.
Well, that's the only reason I do it anymore. And also with me, back from his very suspicious trip in Houston, Glenn Lotzenheiser. How you doing, Glenn?
Well, I have thoroughly scouted out the feelings in Houston. I can tell you that the fan base down there is not supporting the team at all. They are a broken nation. Nobody walking around with any kind of Texas gear on or anything. I was walking around in my Titan stuff. No one had anything to say to me. You know, I didn't even get a single just bad look. So, yeah, the Texans fans are broken right now.
Is it safe to say that they're converting over?
If they haven't, they're about to.
Listen, I know Deshaun's in town, but Marcus has already got the ball rolling, so they better get on now before it's too late.
Yeah, the bandwagon is officially in play. There's no more room left on the actual I'm a real fan at this point.
But tell us what we really want to know. How are the restaurants in Houston?
Fucking awesome. I love that town if I could just do something about the weather.
And their sports teams.
No, I like the Rockets. I like the Astros. Just fuck the Texans. They don't deserve a football team. They let the Oilers leave, so screw them.
Before we jump into the show here, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to tell you that we have a new 2016 highlight video up for the Tennessee Titans, something that I personally worked on and put together. I hope you check it out. It'll be on our Facebook, and you can see it and follow the link to our YouTube channel in order to watch. It's about 7 minutes long. It's a little long, but if you're not going to watch the whole thing, I definitely recommend cutting to the end just to check it out because the ending's really cool. We have one more announcement before we jump into the show proper. Last week we talked about how we were going to do the trivia contest in order to give away these tickets to the Titans home game week 9 against the Ravens, but we're actually going to switch from that. Due to our busy schedules, we just don't have the time to sit down and interview with 20 different people. So what we're going to do is we're going to raffle these tickets off. To buy a raffle ticket, all you have to do is PayPal us the money. Our PayPal is twotoneuncensored@gmail.com. It's $2 per ticket, $5 for 3 tickets, or $10 for 10 tickets. Anything above $10 is $1 per ticket. You can buy as many as you want. The raffle's going to start this week. We're going to let it go a couple of weeks, and then we're going to announce the winner live on air. We're going to randomly pick a number, and then we'll see who that is and announce it on air who wins these tickets. Again, that's to the Week 9 home game against the Baltimore Ravens. If you have any questions about the raffle, feel free to email us. twotoneuncensored@gmail.com is our email. And as always, big thanks to Brandon Williams who gave us the tickets so we could raffle them off. All the money that we're making off of this raffle is going to funding the show. We're not making any money off of it. We're just going into the show so we can make the show better and keep it going. So definitely, if you like hearing the show, throw a couple bucks out there, get yourself a ticket, and you might have a chance to go see your Titans play in Nashville at Nissan Stadium. But enough with the admin stuff. Let's get into the show, guys. All right, going into the mailbag here, guys, we had quite a few listeners ask us similar questions, so we're combined it into one question here. Will Rush, Peter Diapolo, these guys all asked, how many touchdowns do you think Marcus will throw for this season?
I'm going to say 45. That's what he had the last 2 years combined, so we'll go with that. Probably a more realistic number somewhere in the 30s.
Yeah, I think 40 is probably a little too high. I think he definitely breaks 30 for sure, but everybody's on this hype train that is the Tennessee Titans, so it's way too early to worry about that right now. I don't care if he throws 20 if it means we win 16 games, you know what I mean? Fuck it.
I'm going with 160. He's going to average 10 touchdowns a game. Well, just passing. He'll probably have 13 a game if you factor in running. But I think that he is going to set a record that'll never be broken. On a real note, though, I think probably around, I'll say 32. To throw out a number, 32 is what I'm going to stick with. I think he's going to do great. I think we're still a rushing team, though. Even with the new addition that we're going to talk about, this is still a run-first team. But I think that he's going to continue to improve. He improved from year 1 to year 2. I think he's going to improve from year 2 to year 3. There's no reason not to believe in Marcus right now.
Yeah, our offense is definitely a run first. We run to open the pass. We don't pass to open the run. So with all these new additions, you got to remember it's just like having a rookie running back coming in with Derrick Henry, who has not been unleashed yet. So add him with DeMarco Murray, and we're going to see a lot of runs.
All right, guys, let's move on to the next question here. Sonny Ali asks, where will Decker land in our depth chart?
Day 1, probably 2 to 3. They're going to open up the competition, obviously, and then he'll have to earn his spot from there. But it'd be unreasonable to expect a guy with his accomplishments and what he brings to the table to not be your number 1, your number 2 guy. And then everybody else is just fighting for playing time from there. And he will be too. It's going to be a heavy rotation, I expect. But, he's a proven run blocker. He's a big guy. He's a good red zone target. He runs a great route tree. He's going to be your 1 or 2.
Yeah, where exactly he falls doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and say he'll be number 2 on the depth chart, but there's going to be a lot of rotation. I think he's best suited as the number 2, although he did do some great work in Denver as the slot receiver, so I would not be surprised to see him in heavy rotation, in and out. So there's going to be a lot of guys switching around. If we find something that works, we're not going to change it if we don't have to, but I do think we're going to throw a lot of different sets in there. So I expect to see a lot of guys all over the place.
He's going to come in as top 2. I'm giving the edge to Matthews, obviously because Matthews knows the system off the bat. But you talked about, Matt, how he played in the slot in Denver. He played on the sideline in New York. So he can play pretty much anywhere you plug him. He's going to be successful. He's a good wide receiver with very versatile skills. Like Glenn said, also a good blocker. I think that initially he starts off 2, and he'll stay in the top 2. Corey Davis is going to learn a lot from Matthews and Decker in his first year. But like you said, like you both of you said, doesn't really matter. This is going to be a heavy rotation. Let's move on to the next question here. Greg Thomas asks, does the Decker signing change your expectations for the Titans?
Not significantly. I mean, it does a little bit. It has to, but not significantly. They're still going to win at least 9 games, I think, probably a little bit more. He just makes the function of the offense will be improved, and you're going to have a lot more faith in what the receivers are doing out there, better competition. So everybody will get better. I don't know how much it changes my expectations for the team as far as reaching the playoffs. That's step 1. What they do once they get there and his playoff experience, he should bring the rest of the unit up with him and just be that much better of a group for Marcus.
Exactly. I mean, you might see great chemistry. I don't know if you guys took notice to a stat that was thrown out there. Let me see if I can find it. It was red zone related. It was like between Marcus and Decker, those two have been like top, I don't know, in the top 5 between the both of them as far as red zone touchdowns. So the chemistry should be there right off the bat. I think it will be. As far as actual wins turning into, it's hard to say. There might be a game or 2 where Decker actually does go ahead and get us over the hill in the win column. So like Glenn said, I just expect more from everybody with him as a key piece to the team. I think it's a great signing, and I love the deal. We'll get into that in a little bit, but the 1-year deal is perfect for me right now.
Yeah, I believe it was Marcus, obviously the best red zone quarterback, and Decker, I think, was like second in red zone touchdowns among wide receivers or something like that. Obviously, a very intriguing pairing. When you have a quarterback that plays this good in the red zone and you get a guy that is also, a fiend when it comes in the red zone, it's awesome to see that. I'm excited to see what those two guys do inside the 20. As for the question, though, Yeah, I think it does. It does change your expectations a little bit. I think that maybe you add a game or two to what you expected us to have. We might win another game. Our offense is going to be hard to stop. I mean, you think best offensive line in the nation, according to Pro Football Focus, and at least top three. If even if you hate the Titans, you have to admit this is one of the best offensive lines in the league. You have a great tight end. Now you have a solid batch of wide receivers. You have one of the best backfields in the nation, and then you have a young quarterback that has progressed every year and shows a ton of promise. I mean, that's scary. That is scary. I think that we're going to be one of the hardest offenses in all of the league to play because of everything really came together on the offensive side of the football, and Decker was the final piece to put it all together. So yeah, it raises my expectations a little bit, but it doesn't. I'm not getting crazy. I don't think we're gonna, win 15 games this year. I still think, like Glenn said, around 10 games is probably where we will end up. And I like the fact that I think you guys have both seen it. But Eric Decker sat down with Mike Keith for an interview, and he asked him what his goal was here in Tennessee, and he said to win a Super Bowl. He wanted a ring, and obviously great to hear as a fan.
That's never a bad thing to hear. If you come here and you don't want to win a Super Bowl, we got problems right now, today. So yeah, that's what he needed to say, and that's what we want. So we'll take it.
All right, guys. Moving on to the last question here. This one's an interesting one. It was hard for me to come up with an answer for this. Let's see how you guys do. Jay Russell asks, who has the best wide receiver core in the AFC South?
Going through, not the Jags. Texans got Hopkins and who else? They got Fuller and Braxton Miller. Is that?
Yeah. They got a ton of speed and some real potential, but we haven't seen it yet from anybody other than just Hop.
And I don't know anybody other than T.Y. Hilton. Who else on the Colts?
They got like Philip Dorsett. It's a lot of speed, guys.
Yeah. They got a bunch of speed.
We're unproven, but I'm going to say us. I don't see the Jags don't contend. I don't think Allen Robinson's solid. There's no question about that. Just as well as Nuke Hopkins is solid, and so is T.Y. Hilton. But I think all three of those guys could be considered close to a top 10 receiver. T.Y. Hilton probably is in the top 10. Nuke Hopkins could be. I think he was at one point. Kind of fell off last year a little bit. I don't think Allen Robinson is quite in that conversation. I think he's close. But as far as the other receivers to go with those guys, I'm not impressed. I think as a whole, even though we are unproven, Eric Decker's got a lot to prove coming in off this injury. Corey Davis, obviously the number 5 pick. With all the things, including Delaney Walker at a tight end as a receiver, I'm going to go ahead and say us.
I think it has to be us. I mean, those other groups, the Texans guys, without a quarterback, it doesn't matter what they've got out there. And they've got both the Texans and the Colts have got a bunch of speed, but they're not proven guys right now. And the Colts are driven by their quarterback. The Texans don't have a quarterback. So as far as the group goes, I like ours better. They don't have a quarterback, Matt. Deal with it. All right.
They do. He's just not ready yet.
Yeah, so they don't have a quarterback right now. The Jaguars, they have to be in that conversation, though. They've got a couple of really good pieces in Robinson and Allen. They added some more value there this year. I think they're probably number 2 as far as if you were putting together a receiver core, what you would like best. The Jaguars with Hearns and Robinson, they've added extra speed in this year because they needed a speed guy to go in there. They've got a really solid, receiving core. And as much as we hate the Jags, if you went with proven production, they might have the number 1 group. But I believe with what we've done, by bringing in Decker, what Matthews showed us last year, what we've brought in with Corey Davis, we probably have the best 1 through 5. So I'm going to go with the Titans. The Jaguars are probably the only group that has proven production that you would have in that conversation for me, because the Texans and the Colts, the Colts got Hilton and a bunch of nothing, just really fast guys. And The same thing goes on with the Texans. They've got Hopkins and young, really fast guys. So Titans.
I think it'd be easy for a lot of people looking in that don't know the division well to just say one of the other teams, because I think every team has a better number one wide receiver than we do. And, and Allen Robinson, T.Y. Hilton, and Nuke, you're talking about three guys that are in that class of, top 15, top 20 receivers like Matt was talking about. But when you add depth into it, I think it has to be us. When you're talking about 1 through 5, all those guys, all of those teams have a really solid number one guy. But even if you just did, 1 and 2, and that was it, and you were judging it, I would still have to go with us with Matthews and Decker. And then you add in a top 5 pick that shows a lot of promise. After that, you have 2 solid players. You have Harry Douglas as well. Yeah, I definitely think that it has to be us. Then you also, like Glenn was saying, when you factor in quarterback, the Jags have a guy that is declining. Early in his career is declining. Texans don't have anybody. And then you have Andrew Luck, who is an exceptional quarterback, but he has T.Y. Hilton and then, Philip Dorsett, just speed guys. That's it. It's speed guys that aren't good wide receivers. They're just fast. So the only 2 teams have a legit QB to get the ball out to the wide receivers. So I think that limits it to us, us and the Colts, if you're being honest about it. And I just think that ours is definitely better than the Colts. They have T.Y. Hilton, who is probably the best receiver in our division, like Matt was talking about, but they don't have anybody else, outside of him to really make that a good wide receiver core. We have a deep receiving core now. That's why I would definitely say the Titans have to be the best.
Can you guys tell me who the Colts tight end is this year? Because Fleener's gone, Dwayne Allen's gone. I don't know who the hell they got. It must be Jack Doyle.
They signed Brandon Williams. I don't know if that'll help them or not. Probably still Doyle.
No, I think, Doyle might be the second best receiver on that team.
I think he is. I would completely agree with that.
Yeah, Dorsett's one of those guys. He's just so fast that he's going to make some plays for you, so his highlight reel looks kind of impressive. But that's, one play every 3 games, 1 play every 4 games kind of guy. I mean, that's what you're getting out of him. So, yeah, I definitely would agree with you. Doyle's their second best pass
He's a guy you have to pay attention to, just because he's so damn fast. But beyond that, he doesn't run great routes. He doesn't do anything else really well. So he's a guy that you pay attention to because he's really fucking fast. And after that, the conversation is pretty much over with him. He's got a lot of work to do before he's a real receiver.
Kid's got a great go route.
I don't mean to discredit you guys. I completely forgot about Dante Moncrief. He's better than Jack Doyle.
Oh no, that you're right. He is better than Jack Doyle. I would think. And he's fast too. He is really fast. He's got a lot of potential. He's another one of those go route guys, though.
I'll say this: as I actually do respect Moncrief. T.Y. Hilton is better than any of our receivers as of right now, but I would take Rashard Matthews over Dante Moncrief. But Moncrief is a solid receiver. I completely forgot about who was even on their team, but yeah.
Yeah, the thing is I'd take Decker over Moncrief too, and I think there's definitely the potential that at the halfway through the season, at the end of the season, that you could add Corey Davis to that list of people you take over Moncrief. So I mean, it goes to show you another way that we're a better wide receiver core.
Our ceiling is higher than any other, so you can look at it that way.
Yeah, and our ceiling across the group too. Just as far as when you look at the group, there's enough promise there that you're pretty sure that this is going to be a really solid group in a year or two. Whether Decker's still here in a year or two, entirely different question. But the rest of this crew should be really good.
All right, guys, that's all we had for the mailbag. As everyone that listens to the show knows, to get on the mailbag, you want your question heard, all you got to do is find us on Facebook at Two Tone Podcast or just search for Two Tone Uncensored. We put out a post every week to ask everybody for their questions. All you have to do is comment your question there, or you can also find it if you're a member of the Tennessee Titans Uncensored fan page. And if you're not a member, you definitely should be. It's the best Titans fan page that you'll find on the internet. So let's jump into the news here, guys. First up, obviously, the signing of Eric Decker. And we got him for a lot cheaper than I expected. Me and Matt have talked about this a lot the last, since Decker was released. I thought he was going to be a more expensive guy, but it was $5.35 million with $3.85 guaranteed for one season. So even if he comes on our team and gets injured, he's just making just under $4 million. It's not that big of a cap hit for a team. You know, we still have, I think it's like 42 or something like that, $1 million to work with in our cap. So it was a really friendly contract to the team, a great signing, and just one more reason to love you some John Robinson.
Maybe I'm with some faulty information, but the deal that I got that I'm looking at, it's up to 5.35 mil. The signing bonus is 2.5. His salary base is 1.35 with up to 1.5 with incentives. And I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but I thought that's what it was.
That's the same thing. The bonus and the salary are guaranteed. That's why I just added them together to make the 3.85 guaranteed.
Yeah, this is guaranteed. The rest is performance bonus stuff. So.
Gotcha. Yep. I hope he earns every dollar. I don't care. We have money to burn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if he's gonna come here to collect some money, that's fine with me because he's gonna earn it. So, great deal again by John Robinson, like you just said. I don't think for as long as John Robinson's been here, and I actually had this conversation on the page today where people were talking about the culture change and the hype. The hype is real. Blah blah blah. A lot of people give John Robinson his credit, which is due, obviously, but you got to look at the big picture. Look at what Amy Adams has done, hiring John Adams when he didn't have a track record before here. I mean, obviously he was a scout in New England and he went to Tampa Bay before here, but she made this hire. She's making these changes to the facilities. John Robinson has been nothing but excellent. I don't know, other than, the only smudge you may have on his resume as of right now is Kevin Dodd, which is unproven right now. Comparing him to Rustin Webster is like, I don't even know a good comparison. I'm sure Glenn will come up with one, but I mean, he's done no wrong so far, and the players are going to start buying into this culture change, and it's long overdue, but Amy Adams and John Robinson deserve a lot of credit here.
Yeah, they have really worked out the last year and a half here. Just all credit to Amy and to Underwood. They made the right decisions. They brought in the right guy, both as the GM and obviously as a coach. Whether people, there are still people out there who don't like Malarkey. They're never going to like Malarkey, so it doesn't matter. If he wins a Super Bowl, maybe they can have that conversation. But otherwise, he's always going to be the wrong pick. Yeah, well, there you are. But there's going to be people who don't like it no matter what you do. So you can't worry about them. It's obviously been a great pick. This is a great contract. This is what John Robinson does. He gets people at good value. And it just, it's the difference in having a good GM who makes contracts that are friendly to the player, that are friendly to the team, where he can come in here in 1 year, prove that he's going to be the man. And he's only got just a few years left probably of production, but at his size, he's going to be able to be a red zone target regardless, even as he starts to lose a step and get a little bit older. But he wants to be in Nashville. That's where his wife is. That's him coming to Nashville to spend the rest of his career is a perfect fit. So it's a good contract. It's a good fit as far as the town and the team and the potential. And we need a true, high-productive veteran on this roster. He's going to run you a better route tree than anybody we've got. I promise you, he's the best route runner on this team today, and he's going to make every other guy on this team better. And it's a beautiful signing.
For sure. If he comes back, to even close to what he was before, anybody that's a non-believer right now is going to change their tune. There's no doubt about it.
Oh, they're going to have to, for sure. Absolutely, a great signing. The one thing, I was nervous about this. I wasn't huge on Decker at first because I thought he was going to command. I didn't think he was going to command like this. Was it 7.25 he made in New York? But I thought he was going to be above that 6.5 mark, and that made me a little bit nervous. I'm glad that. We went way under that. We went under 5.5. So great signing. John Robinson. Hats off to him. And like you said with Amy Adams, definitely doesn't get her credit. For bringing in John Robinson, for doing what she's done, the stadium upgrades, they're doing the uniform stuff soon. I'll tell you, 100% honesty, when Bud passed away, I was scared for our franchise. I thought, with an owner dying like that, your chances of moving are so high, your chances of being sold are so high. And she came in, and I was nervous about it, and she's done an excellent job. I mean, she's done everything in her power in order to prove that she should be the owner of this team.
I will tell you straight up that when the Webster was, in full effect, just making terrible draft pick after terrible draft pick, and we brought in Wiz, and we were so awful. I honestly thought they were trying to suck so they could move. I really did. Especially when the league started questioning the ownership structure, and there were some members of the family wanting to sell, some members of the family wanting to keep it. I really thought they were looking to get out. Now it looks like they're looking to build a winner so they can get a new stadium. That's what I expect them to be doing, because Nissan Stadium is getting old, and they're spending money renovating it. But when you go in there and then you go into another stadium somewhere else, the age is going to show. So I think there's going to be a stadium referendum coming up here sometime in the next few years. Probably if we start doing some playoff victories, expect the city of Nashville to be asked to pony up a little bit, but we'll see how that works out. But I honestly thought they were looking to sell. And I've had arguments with people on Facebook about that the moves we were making made so little sense to me that it looked like we were trying to be a shitty team to drive down attendance so we could leave, major league style. That's what it looked like to me, because we were just intentionally sucking and doing just the opposite of what you do to build a team, like letting the offensive line deteriorate, not supporting the quarterbacks by giving them quality targets, bringing in just one bad, slow running back after another bad, slow running back. We let the defensive secondary fall apart. It looked to me like we were trying to be a bad team. And I'm really proud of what Amy Adams has done and the turnaround that they've made in just 2 years. No one questions that the Titans want to be here and that they want to be part of this city now. And part of that maybe John Robinson, maybe they brought in some new PR guys, tying in with the Predators, getting the whole city excited about them and trying to drag some of that sunshine from the Predators over to the Titans and fill out our stadium too. They've really turned just the atmosphere around this team around a full 180 degrees.
Yeah, when you bring in a guy who doesn't know what the hell he's doing, like Tommy Smith, and you have him running your organization with Rustin Webster as your GM, who shouldn't even have a job. I'm pretty sure he's still employed with Atlanta. How, I have no idea. But, that was not that long ago. We had Jake Locker, who's already retired, straight out of his rookie contract, retired and probably, sitting at home fishing. To get rid of those guys, and honestly, when we were at that point, when the NFL's crying about how our ownership's not the way it should be, and we don't have a firm owner, and blah blah blah. Amy Adams has completely turned that around. But when we were at that point, I wanted them to sell to that FedEx guy, the local FedEx, whoever the hell he was, whoever wanted to buy. I just wanted stability, and that's something we didn't have. But Amy Adams has stepped up completely to fill those shoes, and we're in a so much it's complete 180 from where we were, and I wouldn't want from not knowing the uncertainty to we should sell, get rid of the 6 owners that we have. Amy completely changed my mind. I don't want them to sell. I didn't think they were really going to leave the city, but I did think that a sale of the team was pretty much going to happen. But, I don't know if the league still has any complaints with how the Titans are run right now. But, from me not knowing what the hell was going to happen to where we are today, I absolutely want Amy Adams running this team, and I want John Robinson a part of it for as long as we can have him.
Absolutely. One piece of news here. We also waived Braylon Cherry to make room for Decker. Obviously, it's always nice to be able to waive a camp body and pick up a guy who's, had a great career like Decker's had. So not really that newsworthy, but I thought we'd bring it up just because it was part of the Decker move.
Let me ask you something. We're talking about addition and subtraction. How are you guys? Right now I feel pretty solid about the season coming up. When we start seeing cuts from other teams and we go ahead and we scoop up a veteran corner, or we make a solid addition on the defense, our heads are going to be huge. Like, I already feel good. I know our secondary is not proven yet, but we have made additions there, and I still think we're not quite done there yet. But when we make another key acquisition, the hype train is pretty much as big as it's going to get, but it may get even bigger.
I mean, I'll tell you this. I haven't felt this good about our team since McNair left. I mean, I liked VY, but I didn't see enough from him. I did not like Jake Locker the entire time he was here. Back then we had such a solid roster, and it was, perennial playoff team, even if it was, short-lived playoffs. But we were a powerful team. We were good. And then, after McNair leaving, it was a lot of mediocre. And mediocre was like the height of it. Outside of that, what was it, 2010 season or 2008 season, whatever it was. Then you get to now. I mean, it's been our best seasons are like 9-7 and missing the playoffs, and our worst seasons are like 2 wins. And now we're back at the point where we're definitely firmly in the playoff hunt. I mean, I'm the pessimist on the show normally, but I'm so excited for this season. I think we have a dangerous offense. I think our defense could use some improvement. But if, like you said, if we even get that one guy, that veteran, solid corner from here until the time the season starts, I think that we are a shoe-in, an easy shoe-in to win our division. Now, I don't think there would be much question about it. I mean, the team that we have built, especially offensively, is so dangerous. Defense could use some improvement, but we still have a lot of solid pieces on defense. If we get that one guy that can be opposite of Logan Ryan, while we bring up the younger guys, that would be, I would for sure. I think that would put us in the low end of Super Bowl contender. The guys that you expect to be there in the playoffs, you expect to be in the divisional round. That's where I think you would have to put the Titans. I'm excited. I'm so excited for football to start. I mean, it's dragging on now, especially that we're making moves like this, and you just see how excited the city is, how excited other fans are. It is. I mean, the hype train, like you guys said, it's moving, and it's just exciting. It's an exciting time to be a Tennessee Titans fan.
I was going to say, did you guys see it's actually the pinned post on Tennessee Titans Uncensored, where yesterday morning on Good Morning Football, Nate Burleson and those guys, they literally had, I believe it was like a 10-minute segment on the Titans on how we've improved and where we are right now. It's actually a great video. If you guys haven't checked it out, please do so. The national hype, it takes like it turns your half-empty glass into a half-full glass, because it's something we haven't had in so long. We can hear, us talk about the Titans all day long, but when you hear national recognition, it just shows the strides that we're making, and it's great to see.
Yeah, one of the biggest things is every time they start talking about, the best running back duos in the league, or the most promising quarterback in the league, or the best receiver group in the league, the best defense in the league, and the Titans are coming into those conversations now, whereas before we were the opposite of that. We are in the worst receiving core in the league, the worst offensive line in the league, the worst defense in the league. So things have completely changed for us. All the signs went up, and so anybody else saying that the Titans are coming up, they should be saying that now. The thing that holds me back a little bit in my excitement is just our secondary until I see how it's going to work. Because we have 3 guys back that I think are slot defenders, or else your number 2 guy. So I don't know who's going to end up being the real number 1. The expectation would be that it will be Adoree at some point. But I don't believe in Logan Ryan as your number 1 guy in New England. He was kind of shown to not be that guy. So that's where my hesitation still is. I completely expect us to make the playoffs. Our secondary is still better right now than it was last year. We won't be cutting anybody later on in the season who was a starter for most of the season. There won't be a Cox going on here. None of that stuff will be happening. I don't expect to see Valentino Blake style just what the hell was he doing out there mistakes. So the secondary is going to be better no matter what. I don't know what we're going to have with that yet, but I feel great about the rest of the team.
Just now, Matt, I actually shared that video on our Facebook page at Two Tone Uncensored for anybody who hasn't seen it. And it's nice. You know, Glenn, you weren't here last week, but me and Matt were talking about, with Chris on the show. I remember, like, even when they would say something bad about us on TV a couple years ago, I was just excited to hear the Titans be talked about.
This
you know,
is true.
Not being local, as soon as they got on national TV, they were like, they'd come on and be like, "Hey, Titans suck ass." You'd be like, "Hey, we're on TV!" Like, you'd get excited. But now people are recognizing. People are starting to recognize this is a team that is built to win. It is built to win a lot of games. It's built for the playoffs. It's exciting. I mean, that's all you can say about it. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's only June, and I think Burleson made that point. He's like, if you're sitting here watching this right now, good for you. But he's like, it's so early right now, but the hype is so real. And it's just, I can't stress, you know, these last 5 years have been awful as a Titans fan, but, you know, I've survived, you've survived, you know, we're all here waiting for this one moment. And I think, honestly, from a fan standpoint, I don't watch a lick of hockey, but the fact that the Preds were able to make that run and, you know, turn those fans into, you know, somewhat of a winning culture in Nashville, I definitely see it translating, you know, over to Nissan Stadium and showing a lot of support for this team.
Yeah, I fully expect that.
Yeah, 100% agree. The last piece of news here, guys, before we head into the break, Vince Young's comeback has been cut short. He was released by the Saskatchewan Roughriders after a hamstring injury. You know, he announced that he was making his comeback. He wanted to get back in the NFL, and he couldn't make the final roster of a Canadian football team. Definitely not looking good for our former QB.
I mean, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure that was just a ploy to start his realty company, but yeah, he was out of the league. He was done. You know, the thing with him, once he left, I thought when he landed in Green Bay behind Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, wow. Even after the Philly bullshit that we all heard about the Dream Team, when he was able to get that backup gig behind Aaron Rodgers, I thought he would never have to do any more starting in this league, keep his job for probably at that time, you know, for the next 4 or 5 years, and have the best job in football behind Aaron Rodgers. You know, I don't know how that didn't translate, but the fact that he was, you know, I don't even think he was there a quarter of the year. I don't know what happened there, but when he left there, he got a job as a University of Texas coach. I believe he had some sort of DUI or something like that got him fired. And after that, you know, that was it. But apparently, you know, you get your third or fourth chances in Canada, but, you know, this injury is pretty much going to put the nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, and that's how I tweeted it out, that this was the nail in the coffin. You know, show's over. And the fact that they let him go after such a minor injury, I mean, this wasn't like a career-ending type of injury or anything. It is in this case, but that's not how the injury itself would be. It is just he was there as much for publicity and to bring interest into the team. It was a minor league thing where you bring in a washed-up major league player just to build up some talk about the team to make people pay attention for a few minutes. That's all him going there was in the first place. So he's done. We all know he's done. And like Matt, I thought whenever he got to Green Bay, he hit the promised land. I was like, just toe the line, learn the fucking playbook, and just be a decent player back there. And you're never going to have to play. You're never going to have to do anything. You just go there and just soak up the glory behind Aaron Rodgers. And that's about as good of a backup gig as you could hope for. You know, at least behind Rodgers, you've got a fairly young guy who's going to be able to play a lot. If you're backing up Tom Brady, there's going to be talk about you and people looking at you, you know, which is nice, but you don't have to do anything. So backing up one of the superstar quarterbacks, that was a great spot for Vince. He fucked that up. He fucked up being a coach. Like Matt said, publicity for his realty company is probably about all this was.
Yeah, you bring up some great points. Both of you guys did. I definitely think it was a publicity thing to try to get sell a couple extra more tickets, maybe sell a jersey here or there, that kind of stuff. I mean, just think about it this way. Would we be talking about the CFL if this didn't happen? Like, absolutely not. So they did their job. I mean, the Rough Riders win in this instance. But, yeah, the Fat Lady sung. Vince Young's done. Football's definitely over for him. And it just – kid had a lot of talent, a ton of talent, but he just never seemed to have his mind where it needs to be in order to be successful in this league. Or even successful in Canada, it seems like. But, I guess this good riddance is all you can say now where we're sitting at. We just spent the last 15 minutes talking about how great the team is and basically kissing ass to every person that owns the team or runs the team or, even the water boy. It's obviously better times without him than it was with him. But that's about all we have for the first half of the show. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about everything from Decker to this team, a whole bunch of stuff we have for you in the second half of the show, so definitely stay tuned.
Time to pay the bills. Some quick ads and we'll get right back to the show.
Hey Titans fans, you've probably heard us talk about the group page several times on this show, and I'm sure you're wondering what we're talking about.
Tennessee Titans Uncensored is a Facebook group page that was built by Titans fans for Titans fans and was founded by our very own Matt Necrone.
If you're a Titans fan that's looking to talk about the latest Titan news, then this is where you need to be.
And you can help me shit talk the crackheads.
Because nobody likes crackheads.
That is Tennessee Titans Uncensored on Facebook. Tighten up. Hey guys, you've heard us talk about Hang 10 Apparel before on the show, and if you haven't checked them out, then you're truly missing out.
Hang 10 is the one place to find unique Titans gear that you will not find anywhere else.
Whether it's a Marigoda hoodie, a Mahalo At Your Boy t-shirt, or Mike Keith's Music City Miracle Call on a sweater.
There are no flags on the field! It's a miracle!
The only place to find it is Hang 10.
Just go to hangtn.com to find all this great gear.
And while you're there, don't forget to use our promo code TWOTONE to get 10% off any purchase.
That's hangtn.com, the official Titan shop of Two Tone Uncensored.
Tighten up.
You're listening to Two Tone Uncensored, brought to you by Podbean.
All right, we're back from that quick commercial break. Now, guys, we've talked about a lot of stuff on this show, but one thing I wanted to bring up real quick before we dive back into a lot of the stuff we were talking about is our unit rankings in AFC South, mainly on offense, is something that I was talking to somebody today and yesterday, and I mean, if you look at it right now, I think we have, the second best quarterback in the division, best tight end in the division, best wide receivers in the division, best running backs in the division, best offensive line, obviously, in the division. On the defensive side of the ball, let's say defensive line, linebackers, and secondary, where do you think you'd rank us?
It's a much tougher question, isn't it? When you talk about, the running backs, they're the conversation the best in the league, legitimately the league. Our defensive line, outside of Casey, there's a lot of questions there. I would much rather have Houston's defensive line than ours, even with the injuries that they've had. I think Houston's got the best defensive line. I would probably put the Jaguars second, us third, than the Colts. Until, Jones and whomever we decide to use at nose tackle shows up to give Casey some help and to be a good combination player with Morgan on the other outside edge, our defensive line is average to me. We got a superstar in Casey and a bunch of I don't know what I'm going to get every day, every play even, from the rest of our defensive line. So I would put us third in the division on defensive line.
Yeah, it's definitely a harder question to ask. I think, if you want to take it to the other step for the linebackers, I'd say that Jacksonville has better linebackers than we do. Even though, as a whole, don't get me wrong, I do think when you get a Brian Arakpo 100% healthy he could be the best linebacker in our division. But as a whole, I mean, Jags have a lot of talent there at linebacker with Dante Fowler, Miles Jack. And Miles Jack's actually going to be stepping into a new role as middle linebacker, calling the plays. Secondary, you know, obviously we're not quite there. I don't know the Rivals secondary that well without looking it up. I'm not going to make something up, but you know, running back is definitely one of our strengths for the league. If we aren't the best running back duo, you know, I'd have to sit down and think about who's better. But we haven't quite seen all of Derrick Henry as far as what he can do. I know this past week they were talking about how great his pass catching has really come into fruition. So, but as a whole, it's hard to say where we stand on defense in the mix. D-line obviously goes to Houston. I'll say Jacksonville gets the linebackers. As far as secondary goes, I don't know that I can name anybody that stands out on Houston. I know Jacksonville's not that great outside of Ramsey, and the Colts really don't have anybody. So honestly, this division as a whole, the secondary is probably their weakest link.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I bet all the quarterbacks are looking at going, you know, there's no corners in this division right now. You got Ramsey, he's only had one season, but you know, all signs that he's going to be a great corner here at some point. The Titans got a lot of potential, but we don't know anything about them. The same thing, you know, going down there in Houston is their secondary is less than it was last year. They still have that awesome front seven to help them out, though, so they're going to be okay. Our safeties, I like our safety combination now. I think we're probably one of the better ones, but Jacksonville's defense as a whole is probably a little bit better than ours. We just have to see what the new coach does with that group. It's just our defense isn't there yet. We got a bunch of guys who got to step up and make big plays for us before we can really judge this group, because so much has changed in the last year and a half.
Yeah, and it's too early to say, but I will add this in quick because I just thought about it. Malik Hooker on the Colts secondary, you know, he's not there yet. He hasn't played a down of football yet, but the guy's potential is scary, and we were just talking about this the other day, how we all wish that he was not a Indianapolis Colt, because, you know, the potential's through the roof with that guy. He's coming off, you know, he hasn't played a lot at Ohio State. He's coming off that injury. You know, hopefully, you know, I don't like to jinx anybody from an injury standpoint, but when you're a Colt and that guy's got scary talent, I think he could be very Ed Reed-like, and it's not somebody I want to face, you know, two times a year. But if that's all they have on their secondary, then I think we can do our best to stay away from him. But he's definitely going to be a standout in the next few years.
Yeah, he's absolutely the problem.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of your rankings here. I think third on the defensive line's good, although I do think that Jacksonville has some proving to do. They have some solid guys up there, but they have to come together and prove it. A lot of Jacksonville's defense is like this. It's hard to rank them, probably harder than any other team in the division on defense, because you just don't. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of guys that have a ton of talent, but you just don't know if they're going to produce or not, whether it be injury or whatnot. But right now, I'd say defensive line, objectively, it's third. Linebackers, I'd put us third, with the Colts behind us. And then secondary, I don't know, it'd be tough. I think that the Texans have a better secondary than we do. The Colts, you know, Malik Hooker is definitely promising, but he's still rookie. And outside of that, it's not impressive. The Jags, like you said, outside of Ramsey, it's not that impressive. So I think it'd be maybe tied for second with every team that's not Houston. That leads me into the next question, guys. Obviously, our defense isn't up to the par that our offense is. Do you think that this offense has what it takes week in and week out to overcome the setbacks that we have on defense? And let's say, assuming we don't pick anybody else up, we're starting the defense we have now.
I do. I mean, you know, we won 9 games last season. I think a few of those games could have went the other way, probably should have went the other way, with probably the worst secondary that we may ever see on the Titans. I mean, it doesn't get much worse than what we just went through. So to answer your question, yeah, I think that even with what we have right now, we're going to see a major improvement. And I do think with the offense we have, it's going to be better than last season. So I have very high expectations. It's hard to give a win total given our schedule. To give a number at the beginning of the season, a schedule on paper is always not what you think it is by midseason. So I think 10 wins is realistic. To say that they're going to win more than 10 is probably, more of a bold prediction type thing. But realistically, I do think we can win more games than last season. We have a better offense, a better defense. And even though our division did get better, I don't think that they did any more than what we've done. So I honestly feel real good about taking this division, and I don't think 10 wins is too far-fetched.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If I had to put money on somebody in this division, it's the Titans. Just, as a homer pick or whatever else you want to say that is, it's if you were going to put your hard-earned money down on a team in this division to be the most complete team and be ready to win this year, it has to be the Titans. We've made all the moves that everybody else has made. Everybody got better this year. The AFC South should be a lot more interesting. The fight is going to be for second place, I think, and that's going to be probably between the Jags and the Colts because I don't think Houston's got a quarterback to have that conversation. Their defense will be pretty good, but the Titans are in the right spot. They're the driver's seat for the division for probably the first time in 10 years. It's going to be really interesting to see if we can beat the Colts, once, preferably twice. That would be a really big change for us. And just if everything will come together and the defense can gel and just hold serve more often than not, we should be able to win 10.
Right. I mean, I agree. I think that there might be a game or two that we probably could have won. It had it. We made some stops on defense. That's always going to happen when you have one side of the ball that's so much better than the other side of the ball. But we still have we have weapons on defense. We have some guys that can make plays for you big time on defense. We have, 2 Pro Bowlers on defense. You have a lot of talent there. It's not as good. Like we said, we're ranking them like third in almost everything. So let's say the third best defense in the division. We're easily, in my opinion, by and far the best offense in our division.
Certainly the most complete offense.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of teams that we're going to play outside of our division that should be easy wins for us. I think there's going to be outside of the division probably 3 or 4, maybe even less than that, really tough games. And you're talking about the Raiders will be a tough matchup. Steelers will be a tough matchup. Seahawks, obviously, a tough matchup. So there's 3 right there. But, outside of those guys, I don't see a lot of teams that I think we're going to have a lot of problems with. I mean, you're looking at teams like the Dolphins. I think we're going to crush them. Browns, crush them. Cincinnati's hasn't been that good. Last year they were really bad. Ravens are still, seeing if they can put it together. There's a lot. San Francisco and the Rams, obviously Cardinals. There's a lot of teams I think that we should be able to just mow over. And there's a couple tough teams outside of that. So I think that 10 wins is going to be, about where we see us. I definitely think we have the offense to carry, though.
What the key factor is going to be with our season this year? It's a matter of whether it's our linebackers or our secondary. It's a matter of whether we can cover a tight end. If we can, the gaping holes that we had last season, Dick LeBeau is very well aware of what they were. If we can correct those, whether it's through J.M. Brown or Adoree Jackson or Logan Ryan, if we can minimize those mistakes and actually cover somebody like Jack Doyle or somebody, you know what I mean? If we can cover those guys, other than those were huge holes that we had. But if we can close those up, there really wasn't that much. We were a good tackling team last season. You got to remember that we have a legend as defensive coordinator, and this is his, third year coming into this?
Yeah, third year, second year as coordinator.
Right. So, he's starting to get the guys he wants to play these positions. So, I think it is going to actually – you look at how the front office has changed in such a short amount of time. If we can – our offensive line has changed in such a short amount of time. If we can get the secondary right, or even, kind of right, just to the point where we're not giving up ridiculous plays to average tight ends, I think that those are going to be the difference between wins and losses.
Absolutely. And, that's one of the things that they've been talking about this offseason is just trying to find that linebacker that can cover a tight end. And there's been discussion that we found him in our rookie. But we got to see it and they got to prove it because what you just said, the gaping hole in the middle of the field, even with the changes we've made at safety, we still don't have coverage guys back there necessarily. We thought Byard was going to be an interception machine, and he did okay, but he didn't prove to be the difference maker for our secondary. It should get better just with the players that we've brought in, but someone's going to have to step up and prove that they can cover a tight end, that they can actually go out there and make a difference in the passing game, in the middle of the field, in the short range. We got a lot of questions to go on there because that's what gutted us all last season. And in crunch time, that's going to be what makes the difference. If we have to bring extra people in to help out covering the middle of the field, that weakens the entire defense, and it just opens us up to lose in the playoffs if that happens that way. But I think with what we've got, we can make the playoffs just based on our offense and just the defense in general. But that's the question we all want to know. Did they do, without making any player changes, did they do something about tight ends? It killed us all last season.
Yeah, you weren't here with us last week, Glenn, but I professed my love for Kevin Byard. Chris actually brought it up, and I went a step further where Chris' bold prediction was in the next 3 years, Kevin Byard would be a Pro Bowl safety. I said it wasn't that bold, and I could see it in the next 2 years. My expectations for Byard, I have extreme – with the addition of Jonathan Cyprien, I really think that's going to open up Byard's real talent. We saw more of instead of the ball hawk that we expected, we saw more of the short tackler, despite what Ryan may say about his ankle tackles. But I do think with what we've added to our defense, it's going to open up Kevin Byard's real playmaking skills. And I told him it really wasn't that bold of a prediction for 3 years. I went ahead and said I would say in 2 years. But maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not sure. But I got high expectations for Byard.
Yeah, my problem with him making the Pro Bowl is going to be if we're going to the playoffs, he shouldn't be available for the Pro Bowl. That would be nice. But also, guys like Hooker are coming in that are going to make it a lot harder for our safety to make it into the Pro Bowl here in the next few years.
And that's fine. Listen, I'm okay with that.
I know, man.
If he puts the plays on the field, I could care less if he actually goes or not.
True
he
enough.
He can be all pro and not make the Pro Bowl. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. It happens all the time. People get snubbed all the time. Probably not from this team much longer, though. We saw a real change this year. It's going to keep going that way. When you win, you go to the Pro Bowl. That's how that works. I'm a big fan of Byard as far as his potential. I just needed to see it on the field on a regular basis. I thought that he definitely outplayed Johnson last year. There was no question that he was the better safety. And now we've got three guys back there. We've got Cyprien, we've got Searcy, we've got Byard. It's going to be a struggle for play time. I don't think Cyprien comes off the field because he's such a sure tackler. And he may help out, over the middle. The outside linebacker I was talking about, Jayon Brown, we're hearing great things from camp about how he can cover a tight end, how good he is in space, shutting down Delaney Walker. All that changes when the pads get put on, obviously, because Delaney Walker will beat the crap out of you once you put some pads on him, and he's allowed to just go full speed. There's a good chance that Jayon Brown ends up face down in the dirt with Delaney stepping on the numbers on the back of his jersey. But we'll see what happens. If he comes in and he can be our corner cover guy, our tight end cover guy, that takes care of a lot of problems for this defense and lets everybody else be better. And like you said, Cyprien will free up Byard, so he's not trying to cover for. And this is the problem I had for Griffin, too, is our corners were always making mistakes that the safeties were covering for. And then we never had another corner who could be trusted down in the box, so the other guy always had to keep his eyes out, too. I think Byard does have a chance, like you said, to show out a little bit in this year, next year, pretty quick here, that he's got some quality, that he'll get a chance to be out there making plays. Just the NFL spacing is different. The speed is different. Maybe he needs a little bit of time to adjust, but I want to see it before I can answer that question.
Yeah, we saw from Byard, we saw 2 picks in the preseason, and didn't see much of the ball hawking throughout the year. And he was a better tackler than I figured he would be from a lot of his tapes in college. Well, he wasn't a terrible tackler, but it's just a lot of wrapping up at below the knees, where I gave him the ankle biter name. And this year he was good. He definitely whiffed on a few, but more tackles than not, for sure. But, I mean, he definitely had some missed tackles. It's something, though, that I feel like he was doing what he had to do within that defense and not what he does best, if that makes sense, guys. Where he had to come up and make plays because we didn't have guys that did that. And then now I think when we add more guys back here like Cyprian, like Matt was saying, and we add Logan Ryan, guys like that, it's going to free Byard up to maybe go back into that ball hawk mode that we saw in college out of him, where he can play a little bit more of that center fielder rather than pressing up because we need him to. When you get guys that can do their job, it frees you up to do a lot more. So, I mean, hopefully we see it from him in the future. I had a couple more I wanted to bring up, guys. We talked about the running backs a little bit tonight. And Matt said earlier you think they're near the top of the league. So I wanted to ask you about our running backs and then our offensive line. Would you say that this is the best two-punch, the best duo running backs in the entire NFL?
You know, I wrote a list. The best proven successful group, I think we're number 2. You probably have to put Freeman and Coleman in there at number 1. They went to the Super Bowl this year. They were unstoppable as a tandem. I think Murray and Henry are right there with them. You know, I would rather have Murray and Henry than Freeman and Coleman, but it's really damn close. After that, you're talking to new combinations. We've got Latavius Murray and Dalvin Cook. That should be a really good combo for the Vikings, but their offensive line is crap. We'll see what they can do, and we've never seen Dalvin Cook in the NFL. We don't know what he's going to end up actually being. And Latavius Murray, we'll see how he can do behind an offensive line. It's a little bit more suspect than even what the Raiders put out there. So I would probably put them in the 3-4 spot. The other combination that I had was Ingram and Peterson in New Orleans. With a quarterback like Drew Brees back there, you're probably going to see a little bit more freedom for Peterson, but what's he got left in the tank? Can the Saints actually block for a running back? And how much do Ingram and Peterson actually get to be the impactful players in the offense down there? So we're definitely 1 or 2. On terms of successful pairs, I think we're number 2 behind Freeman and Coleman, but I think we could be number 1 this year.
Yeah, we're primed for that number 1 spot. I mean, we have not even seen close to what Derrick Henry can do. I think all I know is our offensive coordinator is going to have his hands full with all the weapons we have on the field. DeMarco Murray, for one, was the 3rd best rusher last season. Derrick Henry to be added to that mix, we haven't seen barely anything from him. I mean, we got a small taste of what he can do. We haven't used him in the passing game. I don't know that we will, but I know that they've been working him out in that area in these little mini camp OTAs. But yeah, I don't think New Orleans is really a threat, but you could definitely say the Atlanta duo is up there for sure. Mark Ingram, I think, is actually going to not necessarily, fade away, but I think Peterson takes away from what Mark Ingram brings to that team. So I put no effort. I sure as hell didn't make a list. I didn't come prepared at all. But top of my head, Glenn made great points with those 2 teams. I can't think of anyone else top of my head that even compares to the guys that we have. DeMarco's only 29. I don't know. The way the league talks about him, it's like, it's Derrick Henry's time, this and that. He's only 29. Like, they say 30 is the cliff that you fall off of once you turn as a running back, but he's got at least 2-3 more years of great production left. To add those 2 together, if Derrick Henry turns into what he should, we're going to take that top running back spot for sure after the season.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right now, I'd put us at 2. I think that Ingram and Peterson are. I don't think that fans are going to get exactly what they think they're going to get out of those 2 this year. I think it's going to be a disappointing pairing. I don't think that they're going to be terrible, but I don't think it's going to be this duo that everybody thinks is going to take the nation. You're talking about Ingram, who's a solid guy that's always injured, and an ancient Adrian Peterson. I just don't think that's going to be a good pairing. I don't think that they're in our class, to be honest. The one is Atlanta with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Those two really complement each other well. Those are the only people I'd put ahead of us right now. And just coming off that season last year, they were so good and so complimentary. Both of them can catch the ball out of the backfield well, both run well. I think that we can be that. I think we can be better than that. We just haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen Derrick Henry get enough touches for us to be able to say that we're past them. But I think that maybe not this year, but the following year we're going to be the best. I think it can happen this year. I just don't think you're going to see Henry get enough touches again. I don't think you're going to see him get the touches that Tevin Coleman does. So that's why I would say that it would be hard-pressed to look at the stat line and put us over them. But I think the year after that for sure. Because I think the year after this one, you're going to see the carries get closer to 50-50. And that's when we're going to take over as the best running back duo in the league. But I think right now we're number 2. And that's the only people I'd put ahead of us is that Atlanta group. Outside of that, I don't think anybody's in our class. And then offensive line, guys, there's been a lot of talk about this because obviously Pro Football Focus ranked us number 1 at the end of the season. And a lot of people have brought that up. But obviously there's still a great offensive line in Dallas. Where would you rank this offensive line going into this season?
I'm going to say top 3 for sure. Behind Dallas, and they had a loss this year, so they may not be as good next year. I thought Dallas did a better overall job, but they also had just a tremendous season going on. But we're number 1, number 2, which is surprising to me because I still have questions about our guards. I'm not 1,000% sure I like our guards as much as their production has been great. I'm taking absolutely nothing from them. I'm really amazed at how well our offensive line played, even as injuries took a toll on us. We got better after Warmack left. Klein surprised me. I thought that he was an upgradable player. Spain, much better than I thought. He played through what looked like a bunch of injuries before he finally had to step out and miss a game or two, and he played really well. Kelly showed a lot of great value as a swing tackle playing on both sides. I was really impressed with our offensive line. I was more impressed than I thought I would be with them. I don't understand how they're as good as they are, other than just having Marcus and a great pair of running backs will make everybody look better. And then having a guy like Delaney, where a linebacker needs to drop back and cover him, it makes me want to look around at the league a little bit more and see what other people are doing with their offensive lines, that they are better than they are. Because we didn't make a lot of big changes. We basically brought in Ben Jones for a center, some backup undrafted guys for our guards, and then a rookie. And now that rookie turned out to be one of the best tackles you're ever going to see as a rookie, playing on the opposite side of Taylor. But our offensive line was so much better than I thought they would be. It's hard for me to believe they're going to be that good again this year. I'm waiting to see it happen.
Exactly. I'm in the same boat. I don't know that they can live up to that again. I will say that I think we got a lot more depth than maybe some of the other teams. I wouldn't say we're number 1, and maybe that's just me being, skeptical. But, I mean, you look at the top teams, obviously Dallas comes to mind. I think Oakland has a good line. I'm not familiar with what they have at depth. I think we might have a better depth situation than those guys have. But to live up to what they did last season, it could happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, but, I mean, they came from out of nowhere and put a great season together. I would say easily top 3 for sure, if not, 1 or 2. But to come in and do it again would be very impressive. I don't expect them to fall flat on their face by any means, but to come out and do what they did last season, I would be very impressed.
If I had to rank them, I'd put them right above probably Oakland and right below Dallas. Being honest, Dallas has such a good offensive line right now. I think we're right there, though. I think that it wouldn't blow my mind if Pro Football Focus at the end of next year had us outranking Dallas again. And, it wouldn't blow me away. But, we had a lot of guys step up. The one thing I will say is we are, in my opinion, untouched as the most promising NFL line, because you look at the age of these guys. Ben Jones and Josh Klein are 27. Conklin is coming out of his rookie year. Lewan has only been in a couple of years. Spain's only been in, 2 years. It's a really young group. So if these guys stay together and keep playing, you're talking this offensive line could stay exactly the same and be one of the best units in the NFL for years. Years. There's so much youth on this line. When you're talking about the oldest guy on your line's 27, that's awesome. And I think that we're going to be, a top 5 unit for several years to come now because of these guys. And you can always plug in depth, and you could obviously upgrade it at guard if you wanted to. But these guys have all really proven themselves and have been outstanding for Tennessee. It's been a special unit, but I definitely think it's the most promising offensive line in the NFL.
You spend the picks and you come up with winners, and it's really hard to come up with several winners. And the fact that we got Klein off the waiver wire, we made a pointless trade and came up with Kelly. Quentin Spain, he was undrafted, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and what this line does is it highlights the difference that coaching change can make. Because this line isn't, other than bringing in a great rookie tackle, this line is a waiver wire guy, a guy that we traded away DGB for, and it was a pick that we're just like, well, great, we got Dennis Kelly. I guess that was better than just giving him away for like a 7th round draft pick. And then you've got an undrafted free agent in Spain. That the coaches took this group, said, this is what they do well. This is what we're going to do so they work well with the other guys around them. And we're going to play to those strengths. And that just, it shows you, the complaint we had with Wisenhunt was he wasn't playing to guys' strengths. He was like, you're going to fit into my scheme. I'm not going to adjust my scheme to fit what you do well. And these coaches are saying, okay, you can win doing this, this, and this. That's what you're going to do. It's obvious that the whole mentality of the team has changed. Instead of having an egomaniac like Wisenhunt here who just it's his way or get the hell out, and if it doesn't work, it's not his fault. We have a bunch of coaches that are taking ownership of the plan. They're the guys out there making the plan. It's their responsibility to make sure we win, and they're putting guys in position to be great. And it's paying off in spades, and everybody should just love what's happening with the Titans.
Yeah, and you got to give a little bit of credit to the Big Ten. Talking about both of our tackles coming from Michigan and Michigan State. Klein, I think, came out of Kent State, just below that. So a lot of Midwestern guys on that team. One more thing before we get out of here I wanted to bring up. Real quick, guys. We know, obviously, that we brought in Decker. It's going to add a lot of mouths to feed along, in our wide receiver core. How do you think this affects our tight ends and Delaney Walker and the rookie, Jonnu Smith?
It's definitely going to affect, I don't think as much Delaney Walker as it will Jonnu Smith, but there's definitely going to be a lot of different sets that we see. You cannot take Delaney Walker off the field. I don't care for anybody. The guy is a monster and probably our best overall pass catcher on the team right now. You will see some sets with him off the field, but it's not going to be often. The guy needs to be on the field. As far as Jonnu Smith goes, having that second spot probably locked up. I don't see Supernaw beating him out. I don't see Jason Morrow beating him out. You will probably see him. It's the same type of thing with Taywan Taylor. Those are the two guys that kind of get shit out of luck on this deal. But at the same time, people I've seen, the only negatives I've heard or read about this Decker signing is, oh, well, he's gonna, the Corey the Corey Davis is going to regress and this and that. Corey Davis is not going to come out and light the league on fire in his rookie season. He's just not. I think it's going to help Corey Davis. I think that with Decker on the team, the experience he brings, he's going to basically show these guys what they need to do, where they need to be, and help them along. I don't expect Smith, Taylor, or Corey Davis to come out, week one and just be the elite receivers that we want them to be. I think that it's going to take time, and I think that, this 1-year deal is great because we're basically kicking the tires on Decker. Nothing's guaranteed. Let's not forget it wasn't too long ago when we had DeMarco Murray come in. A lot of people were kind of skeptical on him, on what he could bring coming off of his year in Philadelphia. So I do think that Eric Decker's in a similar situation where he will do well. Delaney Walker is not going to be taken off the field very often, if at all. And as far as the other guys that go, I think they're obviously in a situation where they need to learn the playbook and learn the process and how to do things. So I think he's going to help out from a team standpoint tremendously.
Yeah, he's going to be the guy that comes in and shows everybody what it means to be an NFL receiver. Matt Matthews has been an off and on guy. This would technically be his down year if you look at his history. So bringing in a guy like Decker helps everybody. Unless you truly believe that Corey Davis is going to be Randy Moss, you're not worried about how he performs this year other than just showing us, good promise. The people are saying he's going to have 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. You're dreaming. I would love that to happen. This isn't that offense. Whether he's that player or not, this is not that offense. That's not going to happen. So bringing in Decker, he shows guys, instead of being that coach on the field, like when we talk about Harry Douglas, who I believe is going to end up being a coach instead of a coach on the field. I don't know if you guys addressed that last week or not, but I think Douglas is done at this point. I think he ends up being an assistant coach. He gets waived and re-signed as a coach. Decker will be that guy who can go on the field and show you what he's talking about works. When he's out there making great catches in the red zone, running perfect routes, he's right where he's supposed to be when Marcus releases the ball. He's going to show these guys what happens whenever you do everything else right. It's not just catching the ball. It's where you are on your route. Are you on time? Did you block well for the run? He does all of that stuff really, really well. So he's going to come in, set the example. Everybody's going to get better. Just because Corey Davis isn't the number 2 receiver, isn't getting the ball every other time we throw it, doesn't mean that he's not going to be a much better receiver for playing a year with Decker, possibly more.
I do think Harry Douglas, his way of making it back on this team is as a coach. I don't think that Douglas is going to be able to cut it because of how expensive he is compared to a lot of the guys that he's competing with, and a lot of them are a lot younger and a lot cheaper, and that obviously is going to have an effect. But I'd welcome you bringing a veteran like Harry Douglas in, and a guy that has the relationship with these guys and has the connection with these guys already. Obviously, a great turnaround pick for a coach. I think that's an excellent idea if that's the path that Douglas wants to take. If this is the way he wants to end his career, if he wants to try to get somewhere else, we'll have to see. And I do think this, going back to the original question about the tight ends, I do think it limits their production a little bit because I think, there's a lot of mouths to feed. You have Delaney, you have Decker, Matthews, the rookie, and Corey Davis. There's a lot of guys. Plus, the running backs were both pretty solid at catching the ball out of the backfield last year. There's a lot of mouths to feed, so it's going to take a little bit of the production away. But Delaney Walker is still going to be Marcus Mariota's safety blanket. He's still going to be the guy that on that third down, you find him in that crossing route, that short route, that you just know you're going to get first down. And, so Marcus is really coming up well, but he's still a young quarterback, and you want that safety blanket. And I think Delaney Walker's still going to be that guy. So I think that Walker's still going to be able to get very good production.
Yeah, Walker, like you guys both said, there's no question he's still going to get his touches. But like he said last year, he's fine with not getting 100 catches if the team is doing better and winning for it. He shouldn't have to be the main focus on the offense. So Decker coming in, shuffling the offensive focus a little bit on the wide receiver group where you've got a number 1 guy who can play in the slot. He can play any of those 3 positions because he's a big target, runs great routes, great hands. he takes away that need for that second tight end all the time. Before this signing, I was thinking we're still going to have a lot of 2 tight end sets. I was thinking Jonnu Smith's going to get a bunch of time on the field, and he'll still get some. But we like to run like 3 tackles out there, so he won't get as many chances to block in that situation because we have Dennis Kelly who we can put out there. We won't be running as many 2 tight end sets in passing offense because we have 2-3 really good receivers, or we should. So it does impact after Delaney. There won't be as much time for him to develop, but it also gives as much opportunity for him to get game time development. But it also takes a lot of the pressure off of him, where now he can sit back there and learn from Delaney and not have to perform as much this first year and be more comfortable next year. And we'll see what the offense looks like then. But I think he helps. Him coming in helps everybody else in the offense. It certainly is going to draw some of the extra attention from the secondary, the opposing teams. You have to pay more attention to the fact that you've got Eric Decker out there now. So that should help out the running backs. I was really expecting us to see a lot more 2 tight end sets. I think we don't now. Think we see a lot more 2 wide receiver sets with a fullback and just use the extra power to run, because we have 2 wide receivers that can win on the outside. And then whenever you go to 3, you've got Corey Davis out there. Maybe you put Davis and Matthews on the outside. You run Decker in the slot. Whatever you want to do with it, it gives you so many more options. Like you said earlier, Ryan, the offensive coordinator, Rubisky, he's got everything he wants to play with. He's got a full deck now. He can do whatever he wants on offense with the reasonable expectation that it should be able to work. And just play action should be just vicious this year because we have great running backs and now a solid receiving core.
Any way you slice it, guys, we were talking about all year, like last year, John Robinson wants guys that come in, work hard, and are team-first kind of guys, and that's exactly what we got in Eric Decker. A lot to be excited about, and, as much as it makes the crackheads you go crazy, it's nice to have the hype train around. It's nice to have that building around this team. But that's about all the time we have for this week. Write in your mailbag questions for next week if you want to hear them on the show. Also, do not forget about the trivia next week. We'll be unveiling that. Very excited about it. So if you want to win those awesome tickets, definitely tune in early as you can next week when it comes out. Should be out Wednesday, as always. Thanks a lot to all you listeners that make this show possible. Thanks a lot to my awesome co-hosts, Matt and Glenn. Everybody tighten up.
Tighten up.
Big Dick Decker.
No, not.
Thanks for listening to the Two-Tone Uncensored podcast. You can listen to the show at twotoneuncensored.podbean.com or by downloading the Podbean app on your mobile device. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at Two-Tone Uncensored and like us on Facebook.
You don't know where to get the real big dick, you know what I mean?
Man.